Heyo, welcome to the Industry Idiots podcast. Hi, Sven.
Hi, Sam. Vacation man.
Vacation man. This is the Summer Breeze Super Tropical Special Edition Industry Idiots episode.
Coming to you right together with the heat waves everywhere.
Coming to you from the heat waves and the countryside.
And the countryside. Where are you located at right now, actually?
I don't want to dox my position, but I'm in South Germany. And it's very beautiful here. It's very close to France. Because the other day today I was on a bike and we went, mountain biking. And then like halfway through, I got the SMS that told me, "Hey, welcome to France." So that's how close we are.
Oh, holy shit. Right next to the border, actually.
Yeah. What's been going on? I mean, it's been an entire week of not speaking. So
yeah, entire week isolated you have been.
It's amazing to hear your voice. It's more beautiful than ever. Please tell me about how you've been.
I've been great. Thank you for asking. All good. Trying not to die thanks to the heat wave, but everything's fine. Finally started after all this teasing with the master thesis and the master project. I handed in the papers. And funny thing, actually, which I didn't know before, I thought when handing in the signage application form and stuff like that, that would be the day I would be starting to write it. But actually the day when I signed it before I sent it to them was the day I started. So it turns out I'm already writing it for a couple more days than I have planned. So I'm going to catch up those days at some point within the next 4 months.
Oh, wow. It's crazy that you already started without knowing it, but I think you got this. All right. We've been talking about and preparing it for so long. I think it's just dying to be worked on. Easy peasy. The other day with my brother, we bought Fall Guys. I mean, you couldn't have missed the game, probably. It's very wonky for everyone who doesn't know the game, which I highly doubt. It's a very wonky physics-based Gang Beast and Takeshi's Castle inspired game show game.
Yeah. And what an explosive launch it had.
Dude,
it was everywhere.
Could this be Devolver Digital's best launch ever?
Probably.
2 million copies sold.
Fastest selling in the beginning time frame.
Yeah, 2 million, right? In the first week.
On Steam alone. So you could still buy it on PlayStation and Xbox as well, even though all the PS Plus subscribers got it for free.
That's super crazy to me. Why is the game being given for free in the first week of release? Same with Total War Troy.
Yeah.
What's the marketing there?
I can see the reason why Epic is doing this to grow their user base, of course, but I have no idea what the business decision behind PlayStation's PS Plus decision to give it away for free is.
To be honest, I think it's amazing as a consumer, of course, if you're a console owner, but I kind of feel a little bit like it's unfair. I know PlayStation Plus is a subscription service and everything, but as a PC user, I don't really feel like it's unfair, of course. I mean, just in the back of my mind, I have this small little feeling that I think this is kind of unfair that they're getting the game with their subscription. I want this too.
And even with a subscription, you're only, I think, paying $7.90 depending on the region where you're in for the monthly subscription. And you're also getting the other game. You're always getting 2 games, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered was also part of it this month. So you got essentially 2 games for $7.99.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty dope.
Well, now my feelings about not getting it for free, be they as they... No. Let them be as they are? Or be that as it may? I don't know. I don't remember this saying.
What are your feelings about the actual game, though?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you the same, actually. My brother and me, we bought it to play together here on... we're both at the same location in vacation, so we wanted to... A little fun game to play in between together, and it's really enjoyable. I feel that we had a blast from the second we opened the game until 2 hours later when we refunded the game. Now,
well, okay, that's quick.
This seems like a contrarian statement. I realize that, but I'm having trouble. I love these kind of games. Big Gang Beasts fan here, big party game fan. So while they are not my main game, I love them very much, and we always play Golf It and Gang Beasts in between. With our friend group, right? You're part of the friend group whenever we find the time. But I feel like this game's future is there's too much metagaming involved and too much mastery. I'm afraid that in a couple of weeks down the line, when I'm not touching the game and we come back to it like Golf It, where we say, okay, let's play together, right? Let's enjoy the game together as a group, only us 8 or whatever. You can't do that. You can only play with others, right? Which is fine. It's a game mode. But then I see problems with the race levels that you're going to join with your friends. You have your 7 friends with you. You're going to join. And then they're going to have it so min-maxed so hard, the other players, that you're just going to get shreked. And you can't even enjoy the wonkiness, right? On a similar level. And maybe as a final note to that thought, why isn't that the case with Gang Beasts, right? Why isn't this happening with Gang Beasts? Why isn't this happening with the other party games that I mentioned? And that is the number one reason, of course, is that you don't have to play with others in these games. And the second reason is that these game loops, the game loop itself, doesn't lend itself to optimizing. You know, if you play a race, then of course there's going to be one optimal route through that course. If it's like
a racing line.
Yeah, it's like a wipe out style obstructed course kind of thing. Then you have one golden route and some strats and techniques where you have to do, I don't know, a jump cancel onto a box or whatever. And these, of course, and I'm not hating on people getting better in the game. I love that they'll be able to. It's just not the kind of party game experience I'm looking for. That's the second reason. The second reason is that these kind of tracks, they will be heavily metaed and optimized, and people will get better at the game, which is fine, which they can do. But us, who just have this game to play in our friends group, we will be forced to play with these same people, and then we will not enjoy that kind of thing. And the game loop in Gang Beasts, for example, is just you fight against each other, right? And there's just fighting. There's no optimal routes or everything. You just use the mechanics that are given to you and have fun with it. But what are your feelings?
Well, the funny thing is that you could theoretically easily avoid that thing of the levels being repetitive and having the optimal path by, I mean, the levels, how they are structured right now, they are like these visible chunks of types of obstacles that are put into after another, basically. And if you randomize that a little bit more,
yes,
of course you still have to master the specific little chunks. But if you don't always know which chunk is coming next, then that would spice up the overall competition a little bit more. And to add to the point where you were talking about playing with friends and stuff, I found it super frustrating because I only played it with my roommate. We both played it on the PS4 and joined a lobby together. And if one of the two, or even if it's a bigger group, fails to qualify in the first round, and then the other makes it up until, like, let's say the 4th or 5th minigame, the other has to wait and has nothing to do in the meantime. So in Gang Beasts, at least, the sessions are much shorter, and you can always, I don't know, it's like maximum 5 minutes or something, or 2.5 minutes or something. And then you don't have to wait as much in between. Of course, you can leave and join a game independently, but then you have to leave the group to join a new game independently. So it's not as much of a party game in that sense, playing with your friends, than playing with a bunch of others who are like random on the internet.
Yeah, maybe that's on us interpreting the game wrong, you know?
Could be.
That's an interesting take, especially with the procedural generation. I have two suggestions or two feature or fixes to fix all these problems. Okay, one is if you could lend me your ears and then tell me what you think. One is that you've already mentioned. This would have been my suggestion as well. Procedurality. I'm, as everyone knows who listens to this podcast or knows me in real life or in the game industry world, I am a very big friend and I push procedural generation almost everywhere as a tool to support, designers, and not as a content generating engine. So I would say that the number one problem that they have with the metagaming and with the optimization paths is that the levels aren't procedure generated. And I don't see a reason, because their design pillar from one of their interviews, they're saying quite clearly they want the game to be 50% skill, 50% luck or random. And that's amazing. I think that's pretty cool for this type of game. And that they have this so clear, and that they want to keep this equilibrium between fun and and skill. And why aren't they completely randomizing the racetracks? Yes, with procedure generated chunks and everything, but every time it's different. So you don't encounter the same racetrack twice ever, you would still know the obstacles. You would still know what kind of mini game is awaiting you in form of a race.
There's certain chunks and stuff of the racetracks.
Yeah, exactly. How long it is. But you would have to adapt on the fly, and you can't metagame specific paths. So that would be my first suggestion. And before you give feedback, here's the second suggestion. And that is exactly the problem that you mentioned with the other players or other player, they just have downtime. So what I'm thinking about is if you've played old Bomberman games, the very old ones, when someone was dead in your team, or even just dead, not in your team, they were able to shoot bombs at the players that were still playing. So something this, where players, and if you kill someone, for example, you would be let back into the game, which is cool. I don't know if that needs it, but just for the others to
like
be
Warzone.
Exactly. Just for the others to be able to influence the Fallout guys, what is happening, maybe throw some goo bombs. There's already goo in the game, so to make people slip, or maybe they can throw a little bit of a bungee rope or whatever. And I think that could fix, these two fixes alone could fix 99% of the doubts or the worries that I have with stagnating meta games and losing this fresh fun.
Isn't that exactly what, or do I remember it not correctly, but what Takeshi's Castle also had? The people who dropped out of the thing were able to shoot at the remaining contestants with like cannons when they were crossing the ridges, or do I remember it wrong?
I also watched a lot of episodes of Takeshi's Castle, but I cannot tell you if these were people that were part of the emperors or commanders or whatever, like army.
Oh yeah, right.
Or if there were other players. I think they were part of the defense force.
But I like that solution very much, that you involve the people who, so to speak, failed at the first challenges to get involved until the overall game is finished. Or at least give them a chance to rejoin by successfully shooting someone off the edge somewhere, and then you can take his place when he respawns. I don't know. That would be pretty cool to give involvement to people who failed before.
Yeah, I agree.
Big fan of second chances.
And it would give this, this spectator game show feeling that the contestants can still influence what's happening, and it's more of a show then, instead of the survival of the fittest, fight to the death, essentially what it is right now.
And would play lovely into when you were playing with your friends group, because you're always looking all the time for, where are my friends? Where can I in some way impact their performance and try to stop them from,
or knock your friends out to get back in,
Yeah.
I can already feel that happening.
And then your cycle of revenge ensues.
That would be great. For me, this would make the game an instant buy. I know many people already love the game, and maybe it's not the game for me or this kind of stuff, but I'm thinking game design wise, this is something that I would really love to see in the game.
Yeah, for sure. I like that too.
Maybe we should pitch it to them.
Pitch it as a expansion. Fall Guys remade.
They have a season. Like when you start the game, it says season 1 in the top left. So I expect them to do constant changes to the game.
Well, I guess then they have constant new maps in each season, like completely changing the roster. The maps, how they are made right now, already feel kind of modular, that they can switch those around easily. Maybe they also have like thematic seasons where they change the overall optics and visuals and settings where the stuff takes place. Go away from this, bouncing boundaries aesthetic with how do you actually call that? The materials of what the geometry is made of. It feels like in a Hüpfburg.
Oh yeah. Bouncy castle. That's exactly what it translates
to. That's the actual term.
Yeah, I think that's the actual term.
Okay.
It does kind of feel like that. You're right.
Yeah, the overall feeling of it is great. And I wanted to add a little bit to mechanics as well. I'm not sure if it was tied to our internet connection, or the consoles generally doesn't play as fluidly as on PC if you are having this feeling for tight mechanics. But I always feel like there was some kind of delay in the controls, and the jumping needed me as a player to account for this kind of delay for the actions, and didn't feel as instantaneous as it could be. but it could also be entirely dependent on our internet and lags and stuff. So, but yeah, from that session, I wasn't as much as a big fan of the responsiveness of all the controls. But again, you can still feel like you can master those controls and account for and work against them, against the pitfalls of this. So yeah, still enjoyable.
I've heard someone voice those concerns towards them, and they responded with that most of the wonkiness was intentional. But I agree with you that a delay for me personally in design speak is not an intentional wonkiness. A delay would be like maybe a bad choice design-wise, or it is internet related. I mean, look at how many people picked up the game. They were expecting 250,000, and now it's 2 million. So the servers are probably under duress.
Well, maybe we are completely wrong with our critique, and they made the perfect game because this was successful.
Yeah,
just not aligns with our preferences.
Maybe, yeah, maybe people want 100% being able to get better at the game and master the courses and everything, and maybe it is just personal preference. That could be true. Yes, it's dependent on what you want from the game,
for sure.
But on the Reddits and on the forums and on Twitter, I've seen a lot of people. Almost every time it's 50% of the comments wish for the team modes to be removed, for example.
Yeah, that's the most frustrating part of the whole game. When you land in the team who isn't able to hold onto the other teams or is just generally less stacked with team members.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens all the time. I mean, the current meta game is fuck yellow. So everyone just kills the yellow team when there's a team thing happening. So that's kind of suck.
Yeah, red and blue uniting against yellow.
It's Pokemon all over again.
Even though yellow was my favorite edition. Pikachu.
No. I mean that, yes, but I meant the Pokemon Go, where everyone was team something. I forgot the team names from the Pokemon Go teams.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Team Instinct, I think, was Team Yellow. God damn.
Oh man. How long is that ago?
I don't know. It felt like Pokemon forever, Go, but just a couple years. Towards the other question that I raised earlier, how do you think, is this a good business decision for releasing a new game for free? Especially, I'm not so much looking at Fall Guys because they want to generate hype, right? Because it's a party game, or it's a very funny, fluffy, lovely game, and they want to generate hype. So I understand it with them, and they also have microtransactions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm not really of course, I somehow understand, but how does it work for Total War?
I have two lines of thought. One going first before we move on to Troy into the Fall Guys thing. You can instantly see that the whole game is designed around the season model, and of course that leaning heavily into. I mean, the store is front and center, even in the main menu.
Yeah.
Kind of feels a little bit like a mobile game that landed on consoles, in a sense of how the overall UI scheme looks like and the tons of customization options and stuff. Well, yeah, so that's probably their business model, trying to get as much people in there and then make the most revenue via the microtransactions. And for Total War, the thing with Total War is that all their premium releases in the last 5 years, there was a Total War every year, I think, at least had like a lifetime of about 3 or 4 years after the release of the main game, where they were still publishing expansions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that completely, on the one hand, planning on that people catch on to like the overall Total War style of game, expand their audience for the future, for future Total War entries, then additionally cash in on the DLCs they're for sure gonna make. They already announced one way before release. And in that sense, if you like the type of game, Total War, you're for sure gonna check out the others as well.
Yeah.
That will also be one of the strategies. So there are like 2 Warhammer Total Wars, there's 3 Kingdoms, there's the Rome series, Shogun, Empire, Napoleon, and all the others. So if you like that type of game, you will for sure check out the others. And then from Epic's perspective, of course, growing the user base of the Epic Game Store and the client, and then that will for sure lead into more sales in the store.
Epic's perspective is pretty clear here. They're doing they're making more black numbers. Was it red numbers? No, black numbers, right? If you intentionally lose money just to grow your user base. That's the same thing that Amazon is constantly doing, aggressive expanding. So that's definitely a smart business decision. I want to say something to the Fall Guys thing that you mentioned. Funnily enough, with the mobile thing, it's not on Switch. I would have expected it to definitely be on the Switch console. It's a perfect Switch game, but it's not.
Yeah,
maybe further down the line.
Maybe there's also some exclusivity contract for the consoles.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we don't know. But
don't know.
I agree with your sentiments that it would fit nicely into the overall feeling and aesthetics of the games for that platform. The wholesomeness and silly fun together, mobile party with your friends, that kind of perfect fit. Total War, I've read somewhere that one of the influences for this decision could have been that they, I think it has positives and negatives to do this for 1 day for free thing. Positive, every player gets a copy who is interested in the series, right? Because they love the series, they follow the news, they're not going to miss that 1 day window. Negative, of course, if you miss the 1 day window. Maybe you like Total War, maybe you didn't, maybe you're not active in the Twitter sphere or not active on social media or whatever, and you don't hear about this. So then you feel bummed that you didn't get your chance of claiming that free copy. Or it motivates you to stay in the loop more actively and follow all the Creative Assembly Twitters and Instagrams and to try to keep up to date with, in case they're doing this again. So
hopefully,
that could be also...
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe. Or maybe you're frustrated because you missed the window. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good, solid choice to do this. As you mentioned, veteran players will be happy because they get a free game. They would have bought it anyway, so they're happy they didn't have to spend money, but they will still spend the money on all the DLCs. Non-veteran players, like amateur Total War, they always have to, or amateur Total War players, they always have to struggle with the thought, am I going to buy the next one even if I'm not that good? I always kind of enjoy them, so they get it, and they also spend money on DLCs. And total noobs who have never touched to any strategy or Total War strategy game, they will be like, doesn't hurt if I pick it up, it's free, and then I'll try it out in a couple months maybe. And then maybe some of them will convert to be a Total War or strategy like lover.
Yeah, in a sense, it's for sure some kind of extended demo of the type of game. And it's also not part of like one of the main entries of the series. It's part of like Total War Saga, which they had done one before. That was the Viking spin-off, which also was like a smaller scale, less complex, less units, less factions, smaller world, which they also like sold for 30 euros, similarly to Troy as well. And like this Total War Saga thing was kind of their vehicle or their way to try out more unconventional ideas and systems compared to the main series. And maybe that was also the reason why they made it free. So that they weren't sure about the experimental features they had this time around, and then I don't know, could be influencing it. And then they saw the potential for okay, let's make this extended demo. Maybe some people will stick with our series.
Yeah, I think that's the goal here. It's like a little appetizer to get you into the, I don't know how it's called, the Total War world.
The franchise.
Yes, thank you. That was what I was looking for.
I've been waiting for so long for that franchise to touch on one of the other big IPs that would lend itself perfectly to this type of game. Of course, A Song of Ice and Fire would be one of the go-to choices for this type of game, managing your house and faction on the campaign map and stuff.
Yes, and Lord of the Rings.
And the other would, of course, be Lord of the Rings, yeah, like you said. But they already have kind of that direction with the Warhammer. So the fantasy realm is kind of covered by Total War in that sense, because Warhammer 2 is pretty good.
Always thought it was a weird choice to go with. I love the Total War Warhammer games. I have all of them, and I have all the DLCs. Really, really amazing games. But I always thought that this was a weird choice to go with.
In what sense?
If you compare business decision-wise, if you compare the fandom of Warhammer to the fandom size of something in peak Game of Thrones or maybe Lord of the Rings, then I think the Warhammer niche is much smaller.
Is it really a niche though? Or are we just underestimating Warhammer?
In my real life, I know, like I'm deep in the games bubble, deep in the industry bubble. I know maybe 10, 20 active Warhammer players. Like active, like weekly or bi-weekly playing. But in that same bubble, I know almost, let's say 300, 400 people who love Lord of the Rings and who do marathons and, you know, have read all the books and enjoy the music and all of that kind of stuff. So even though maybe it's not a niche Warhammer, but it's definitely not as popular as Lord of the Rings compared to the general population.
Well, maybe they are still gonna do a Lord of the Rings Total War adaptation, because Amazon is still going for their 1 billion investment on the TV series.
Oh my
tie
God.
in nicely.
I'm so looking forward to that series. Either it will be a glorious disaster or it will be amazing. Either way, I'm ready.
No middle ground possible.
no middle ground at all. Exactly.
Yeah. But they're actually trying to, not Creative Assembly or Sega. I'm not sure who's the current right holder to Middle-earth. I think it's Warner Brothers with their Shadow of Mordor games and Shadow of War games. They're actually doing in a German studio a Gollum game for Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah, where you play as Gollum, and this is like a third-person adventure. And it's more like probably a stealth game because you're playing as Gollum and trying to evade orcs and other friends and foes. So it's an interesting decision to make one of the most unlikable characters the player character. But let's see how that works out for them.
Smeagol. Now that you mentioned Shadow of Mordor, very like Monolith, I think, is a developer, right?
Yes.
They were almost ready to die, right? They had 2 failed titles in 2012, and they're very aware of that, of course. And then they started working on this Nemesis system for Batman. The original, I don't know if you knew, but the original, like Shadow of Mordor, the game for Lord of the Rings, that was originally planned to be a Batman style game.
Oh, okay.
And then they had the director from, what's the Batman film director called again? From
which one? From
the new ones?
Which Batman series?
The new ones?
Oh,
very famous.
The one who made the Planet of the Apes movies, Matt Reeves, I think.
No, the other one, the very famous one. What is his name? Nolan? Was it Nolan?
Nolan was before, but then there was also Zack Snyder doing Batman vs Superman, which is also technically.
Okay, but I meant Nolan because Nolan jumped ship. He jumped ship of the video game collaboration project, and then they were kind of stranded, right? And then they somehow found themselves to be in cahoots with the Lord of the Rings people holding the copyright there. And then they decided that they tried to figure out where they're going to set the game, right? There's all these fantasy regions. Why is the game not set in Gondor and all of that kind of stuff? And they decided for Mordor and all this orc shit. And then they somehow stumbled upon this Nemesis system. And it's such an amazing system. And this is essentially capturing some of what I want to do in narrative design as well, right? They're procedurally generating Nemesis stuff, like fight orc people who follow you down and take a revenge on you, and there's titles being generated and other captains and new leaders being generated, and they also hunt you down. This is just wonderful, and I love that. Did you play the game?
I actually never played it.
Oh,
so it's still on my backlog.
All right, maybe
Not sure why I haven't given it a chance yet. Probably because it's set in Mordor, and that is also what's putting me off a little bit, because I think there are regions in Middle-earth where I more likely want to explore, because we always imagine, thanks to the movies, Mordor to be this barren and not very multifaceted land, and everything looks grey and dull and dusty, and there's fire everywhere. So that feels kind of monotonous to me just from the title, but I've only heard good things about the game, so it must be good. And so it's still on my backlog, even though I also actually own it already, so I haven't played it.
It's a medium-sized team, right? So they had to compete with the other open-world giants, especially close to them. The game was often compared to Assassin's Creed when it was released, or when it was first teased, because of the similar climbing system. But of course, the game through the Nemesis system is a completely different game.
Yeah.
And they had to compete with these kind of other open-world games. And as a small studio, So how do you compete with a huge team who can generate a lot of content, a lot of side quests, amazing loops? How do you compete with that? And I think that's one of the points that I mentioned where procedurality comes in again to kind of make that happen. And you have to pick a certain area of the world. And if you pick an area of the world like Gondor, and you suddenly have to supply 1 million characters and voice lines and buildings and stuff to discover versus the comparably barren Mordor and the orc world that are much easier generated. I think that makes a lot of sense as a medium-sized studio.
Well, then you can for sure understand the decision for the location and also stretching the content via procedurality, of course.
Yeah, funnily enough, the content is the procedurality. And it's not really stretching per se. I know you haven't played it, but I'm sure you've heard of the system, what it does. And it's really, really, really cool because it makes you enjoy failing somehow because it allows you to take revenge. And everyone who loves movies like John Wick or what's the famous Korean one? I forgot the name.
The Raid? No.
Well, all the revenge movies that we love. I'm super baked from the sun. I'm sorry. The sun has burned me like a red lobster, and it's hard to collect my thoughts with sunburn. But that's what I'm saying. All the revenge, the satisfaction that revenge systems give you, that revenge movies give you, this is what the Nemesis system gives you. If you just lose a handful of times, then you suddenly have this orc clan where the highest captain is, teasing you, and you always try to get him. But when you get him, all of his henchmen and larger like lieutenants and everything, they're all still there, and they stop you, they kill you, and they just overwhelm you. So this is a system like this would really, really, really work in a mafia environment.
Or where different families take revenge on each other when you kill their head of the family and stuff. Yeah,
if you had a Nemesis system in mafia environments, that would be so amazing.
Oh damn!
What a great
maybe
system.
In Mafia 4.
I hope they're gonna share more insight. They already shared a lot of insight. They give a lot of interviews that I really enjoy. But I'm hopeful that other big studios, how the Nemesis system works,
okay,
like in detail and all that kind of stuff, how to like make it work. There's a lot of complex loops that are involved with each other, and especially when it comes to the generation of dialogue. And I'm really looking forward to more AAA or big studios implementing procedurality into their narratives. And this is what I'm actively pushing and working on as well, right? So let's see.
As long as it's still meaningful. But we had that discussion before.
Yes, we had the discussion, and I'm on your side. I hate it sorry, No Man's Sky, but I hate it when a game does it like No Man's Sky. When everything is procedurally generated, that it completely lacks all intent that it could have. There's human struggles. I want a human to have put in a message for me to discover, things to overcome. Like the overall narrative, the overarching structure, the plot, I think that should be constructed and written by a human being. But you can fill that. You can fill all the little content, all the the surnames, the prenames, the
in-betweens.
Yeah, the maybe the small village titles, the barks that the NPCs bark at you when you walk into them. You can generate all of that crap that takes man hours away from all the important work.
Mm-hmm.
But I do realize that it's very like you need a lot of good engineers and programmers to make a system like this work.
For sure, and design as well.
Yeah.
So, you think Monolith is doing another Shadow of Mordor or another game set in Mordor?
As far as I know, their funds were depleted before Shadow of Mordor, and if that game wouldn't have been a success, I think that could have been their closure. So I expect them to release another iteration of this somehow to just fill the reserves.
The end of the trilogy.
Yeah, just fill the reserves, make sure that you have enough money to experiment again and try new things, and then we'll see. Funnily enough, the Nemesis system wasn't supposed to be the main feature of the game throughout development. It was just a thing. They had this prototype group, and the prototype group was working on the Nemesis system, and they finished it and they showed it off. And the first time they showed it off, the system is almost the exact same as it is in the game now.
Because it was so impressive.
Yeah.
Also satisfying already.
And then shortly before release, as far as I know, I've watched an interview somewhere in the last 3 weeks. They mentioned that a couple of months before release, the call came that they said, you know what, guys, the Nemesis system, that's what makes our game the game. And we're going to heavily push this as the main feature, and this is going to be what the game is about. And then the Nemesis system got a lot of like polish.
Yeah. Seems to have worked for the series, because got 2 entries already with Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War 3 years after it.
Oh, so it was called Shadow of War. I knew there was something that was called like that, because
the first one was Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, and the second one was Middle-earth Shadow of War. And
okay. So that's where was the slip-up came from.
Yes.
Cool.
It would be interesting if they're gonna do a third one set in Middle-earth, but not in Mordor this time. And maybe call it like, I don't know, Shadow of Gondor or Mirkwood, wherever you want to set it.
Or Shadow of Middle-earth.
Shadow of Middle-earth as the third one, yeah. And make it the complete map, of course. Being completely overscoped and unreasonable here.
Yes.
But imagine.
It would be amazing. What I'm always imagining is a game with the Nemesis system, with the world building from Witcher and the cool side quests, with the things to discover from Skyrim, with VR and co-op, and then this is the dream game. Obviously impossible, but a man can dream.
Yeah. The main crux of the Nemesis system, is it actually that those characters, after you've already failed fighting them, that they like actually actively recognize you? And
yes.
Because you said like the taunting thing was a thing.
They recognize you to such detail that they are like, oh man, you killed me 3 times, but the 4th time you will not get me. And they even remember where you hit them and how you hurt them and what you did with their generals. It's very specific, and they know a lot of the AI is crazy, the memory of the AI in this game.
Okay. Does it also have effects on your like resource progression or character progression? Do you drop some kind of, because I imagine it would work pretty nicely in, I'm always having this walk of shame feel of Dark Souls, where you imagine you go into a boss fight with 30,000 souls, and then they drop the souls. You also have this feeling of, okay, this is my Nemesis, I have to get the souls back. And then imagine one of the Dark Souls bosses would also be taunting you, ready to get your souls back, and try to mock you for it. That would...
That's actually quite a good idea.
Fall in the same direction a little bit.
That's a great idea. I love that. I have never thought about it this way, in Dark Souls especially. That when you drop your souls there, and I've experienced this feeling. Everyone who has played Dark Souls has experienced this feeling. I've never thought about it that way, that at this moment, the boss somewhat becomes your nemesis. This is definitely something I'm going to write down for future design talks and meetings.
If you drop the souls there, that is, can easily each other minor mob or minor enemy can also become your nemesis. Doesn't have to be the boss.
Yeah, if your demise is somewhat tied to where it happened and that you lost something, that immediately bonding you to the AI, that's a good idea. That's a pretty good idea, actually. I'd like to write this down in my design notebook right now. No, it's in my backpack. This will take too long. But remind me.
This episode for 5 minutes, so Sam can take notes.
Remind me after the episode, please.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a cool idea. I actually don't know. I don't even remember if there's a currency. It's been a long time since I've played the game. But what it does very well is when there's these mechanics where you can mind control people. So you have this overview of the orc captain and all its generals and whoever is involved, right? And their promotions after they kill you, after they have successes, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So you infiltrate them, and you can turn them against each other and turn them against the captain and mind control them and all of these kind of things. And that's so cool. And then you can get all of them to turn on each other, because they didn't put a limit on. I think they had it planned. They also mentioned this in this talk. I gotta dig out this video or this talk that I saw. They mentioned in this talk that originally they had a limit on this, but it didn't feel like it would give the player the full feeling, like fulfilling the fantasy of becoming this shadow of this entire orc clan. So they gave you the freedom of like literally being able to mind control or turn everyone, and then exact your all-powerful, crazy, untouchable John Wick style revenge.
Or you don't even have to necessarily fight the boss yourself, and just let your minions overrun for you. At least that feels like how you described it.
Exactly.
Didn't the second game or one of the games not also have like some kind of siege system where you could like besiege certain castles with your army or sections of your army or mercenaries or something like that? Can't remember it actually.
That's a good. I have to be honest. I was writing down into my notebook what I wanted to write down, so I didn't really hear the question. Please ask again.
If one of the games did have actually like a siege system where you could utilize the orcs to take over certain Mordor castles. I think I read something or saw something about that 3 years ago when they were marketing the game that was a thing. Not sure if it made it into the final game. Because when looking at all the screenshots and promo material of the games, you always see big castles that you have to infiltrate or big camps and stuff like that. And that would suit itself perfectly to command this orc army that is on your side with a rivaling orc crew or clan, and then you take over this fort. That would feel nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's also about getting access easier, and you can learn you can get a lot of intel about people and orcs and whatever lives in this camp or this castle, and reveal their weaknesses. And it's a long list, and then you can approach this entire thing very tactically. So you can either gather intel, you can turn them, you can just slaughter all of them, try your luck with killing the boss. Many different approaches that lend themselves to emergent behavior for the player.
Well, it looks like I have to install it at some point.
Yes, please. Play the game.
Fighting for it.
What did you mention? You mentioned earlier, I think it was even before we started recording, that were two major things happening in my week of vacation. One was Fall Guys.
Yeah, the other thing with Epic Games and the Apple App Store and Google Play Store, that Epic Games sued Apple and Google for pulling Fortnite off the stores. And their main arguments are basically that they are not actively advocating for open platforms and open environments, and that the app stores feel like a monopoly on their certain devices, and that Apple is taking Fortnite away from 100 million possible customers, and that it's anti-consumer to have this closed environment, which they are completely forgetting the fact that the console hardware thing is also like a closed environment.
Yes, which I hate and which I always push. This is my opinion, and I will die defending it, that I hate hardware and console exclusivity. It's the worst thing that has come to gaming in the history of ever, and after microtransactions. And I'm very glad that they are working against it. With Death Stranding, Sony releasing Death Stranding on PC, Red Dead Redemption on PC, Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. Now we just have to get rid of timed exclusivity, and we are golden.
We are golden, yeah. The way Epic actually sued Apple was kind of a very comedic way, where it was they made a parody or a spoof of an Apple commercial from the 1980s, which was saying something along the lines, "Don't let the future become George Orwell's 1984," and they recreated that exact ad with Fortnite characters and made fun of Apple for "Don't let Apple become an oppressive government like in 1884." So a little bit attacking them with full force, basically, while still making a bit of fun of them.
Okay, one question. I have one question. As I said, I have completely missed all of this because I'm still in the middle of nowhere, enjoying the sun and napping.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, what's the reason? I imagine the reason for even pulling it or suing them is that they're dodging the payment system, right? They're dodging with their microtransactions. Oh, that is it. Okay, that would be my guess.
Exactly it. Yeah, because the Epic wanted to avoid the share that Apple and Google are taking, which is of course like any other store, 30%.
So I understand. Apple and Google here. Why would I think it's microtransactions themselves are predatory as hell. So if you release your game on a store and the requirement to release it on this said store is, which is also a requirement for all the other apps and games on the store, is that the revenue that you generate through the store you have to share with the store, then sorry, then you don't weasel yourself around this by creating a fake currency that you can buy, and with that fake currency, then you buy come on.
Yeah, well, Epic implemented their own microtransaction independently from Apple or Google, and that's the reason why they got pulled. It's like the V-Bucks, or how they are called.
Yeah, the currency.
Yeah, and they are still also a store operator. They have their own store where they provide much better, let's see, how do you say it, revenue shares for developers and publishers. I think they're at 16% or 12% only, compared to the usual 30% cut. But it's an easy way for Epic to push for this and market it as, it's so pro-consumer, when their only intention, of course, from a business side is to be able to take the full amount of what they are selling themselves in a game or on the store.
Yeah, I feel this is kind of shallow, to be honest. Yeah, I'm usually never on Google or Apple's side, but this time, sorry, Epic. I'm still a bit salty from the exclusivity contracts that they had, where games only came out in the Epic Games Store. So maybe some of that is still remaining in my system, and not rooting for them in this lawsuit might be getting this out of my system.
Yeah,
but generally, go for it.
I was just trying to argue a little bit for the Epic Games Store. Well, my main problem with the store and the overall exclusivity isn't really the exclusivity thing as well. There are enough reasons why you could dislike a second store or having multiple stores, but I don't think that exclusivity is the main thing you should complain for in this setup. I can see why people dislike it, but for me personally, a much bigger reason to hate having a game on a different platform is that it has less features than on the platform where you have your most games. Because it will never have the same amount of features in this like Steam has, with all the community stuff bound around it, user reviews. Okay, they added that now.
Wait, they have user reviews on Epic Games now?
Not user reviews, the OpenCritic and Metacritic thing they added but not user reviews and stuff.
Okay.
And because their overall launcher is like super unperformant, or it feels super unperformant compared to
user
Steam,
experience.
Feels more sluggish. You can't filter in the store or do precise searches, and like the overall user experience of the store is just generally not as good. And that's the main reason why I would understand hating that store. But the store itself existing and providing a different opportunity for customers to choose between who is selling you the game, and they even provide better conditions for developers. From that perspective, I wouldn't hate on the Epic Games Store system thing.
Well, for me, it's the other way around. I wouldn't hate on them for not having features, because they're a relatively new store. They make features. Making features takes time, coding them and implementing them in a bug-free way. But what I'm saying, or what I'm feeling, is that what you can hate them for is that even though they're fully aware that these features aren't there yet, they have an open roadmap, everything, they're aware, they are forcing people to use their inferior store by exclusivity contracts. No one would be mad if they're saying like, oh, we're a new store, we're trying to be competition, we have better rates for developers, check our stuff out, we're working on these features, blah, blah, blah. No one would hate them for not having many features or the but people are hating them because they're being forced to use this store that still does not have these features and won't have for the next 5 years.
Yeah, okay. That's a angle I was trying to go for as well, in a sense that you are being forced to use this inferior product.
Yeah, but I do like Epic's general. Okay, man, maybe it's because of all the free games and all the all of what they're doing to please the people. But I think at some point they will stop. They have to. It's like Amazon, right? They of course
people get used to it and they can't stop anymore, because then people would expect them to where's my free games? You did it for 2 years. Every week there was 2 free games. Where are my free games? And then public outcry.
But by then the users are already bound to their platforms.
True.
This is how it works. This is what you do. This is why you aggressively expand. You want to bind users to your platform and then reciprocate your losses and stop all these features that lose you money.
Fair enough. Maybe they're just going to reduce the frequency of free games, do it every 2 weeks. Similarly to back in the day when League of Legends were releasing a champion each week and then it got reduced to 4 champions a year or something.
which makes sense balance-wise.
Maybe they are reducing in the same fashion for their store.
Mm.
In a sense, they are user experience / game designing the experience with their store.
They definitely need to hire an experienced designer for the UI. As the UX is, oof. How is everything so nested?
It is nested, but I like how much from the visual fidelity thing you can promote
Art-wise.
key art and art-wise and have like the cover in its full glory and not rely on this little tiny box you have in Steam, which is much nicer to market your game, but you still can't find anything because you don't have any filters or...
It is more beautiful. I'll give you that. And Steam should be offering custom themes. I know they do, but custom themes where you can...
Official custom themes?
Yeah, I remember way back when I was a little kid, when I was 15 or something, or 14, or I don't know, when I was like equipping different Steam skins. I remember this exists, but they should offer, if they don't, like aero style full rain meter makeovers where I could have look like a glass wall with no frames and just the covers of my games, and it just looks beautiful. Well,
they try to do it for your library when they did the redesign of the UI, but they haven't done that for the store yet. That's true.
Yeah, but the library is still nested. This is what pisses me off. Why can't I click the Steam icon and it immediately sends me into my beautiful library view? Why do I still have to go through all the tabs? And this is the better store. I love Steam and I feel at home in Steam. And now we go over to Epic and you suddenly have to click on 5 links. Every single link loads for an eternity. Then the site has to build and that loads forever. And then even though I have fantastic internet, and then you click the games and then not being able to install from the cover. No, it has to open the game page. And then on that game page, on the bottom right, there's someone somewhere very, very tinily written install game or something. And it's just, and then when you're downloading it, where's the download happening? Then you have to pull up this other page somewhere where it shows you this download, but it doesn't give you straight up the perfect details. I don't know. It's just a wonky experience overall, menu flow wise.
Hidden behind tabs.
Yes. Tabs behind tabs.
A story every product can sing a song of.
I think they should remove
menus.
Unreal Engine from their game store.
Oh yes,
I think that's
make it much more lightweight.
Yeah, and then focus on optimizing the game store interface and menu flow.
True. If it would be more lightweight like the Unity hub, that would be the optimal thing for just having Unreal. With your project management, your different project folders and stuff like that, maybe you can manage your assets as well, but you don't need more than that. And I don't know, it feels overloaded a bit.
It's the same problem when you compare something like Netflix or SkyQ to an inferior interface like Amazon Prime. Most of the time I'm searching the things I want to watch in the Amazon bar instead of using the interface, because it's even worse, like SkyQ is amazing, but if anyone out there who had the normal Sky app for tablet or phone, this is
PlayStation Sky Ticket app is horrible.
It's terrible. It's unusable. Every time you change a setting, it forgets that setting on the next thing you open. If you close something, you have this little tiny X that you have to hit with your finger that has no button around it, nothing, and it has a delay of 3 seconds to activate. It's every time you watch an episode in English, and then the next one comes up and it's in German again. It's a nightmare of a user experience. And they have so many great examples. You look at the interface of Netflix. That's a fantastic interface, very intuitive, works well, is responsive. And this is what you should be aiming for as a game store as well, if you're Epic Games. If you have the money and funds to,
But even Netflix isn't perfect. There's much to be desired from filtering and searching for tags and stuff like that.
For sure. I mean, it's not Steam.
Most people would probably not want to spend so much time with their search stuff and optimizing everything when they're sitting on the couch. They just want to show me something I want to see and then browse the algorithm.
Yeah.
They actually introduced a new feature for Netflix, which I find quite interesting, which is just like it's manifested in their feed when you scroll down, and at some point, kind of when you feel like I haven't found anything yet, they promoted with like surprise me, and then you can click on it and it starts a random thing based on your activity. So that would be an interesting feature for
Scary, but cool.
For the, how do you say it? For the game storefronts, when you often can't decide what you want to play from your enormous backlog.
Sven, that paired with the feature that they're currently like implementing or rolling out everywhere, which is that you can play demos of games, which are just the first, like you can, that's what Steam is doing, right? You can download the game completely and then play for 2 hours and then it kicks you out. So it's not a demo, but you get the game for 2 hours, the full game. So if they combine this with that, so you're browsing for games, you just tell them, okay, surprise me with the game based on my activity and my rating and whatever in the Steam store, and then they just download a game for you and you start it and you can immediately just play. That would be great.
That would be cool, yeah. Which you're for sure gonna tie in with any future game streaming model there's gonna be. When you can instantly start the game, because you don't have to download it, you can stream it.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm really, really surprised that Steam has not come out with a subscription-based model yet. Everyone else is doing it.
How would that look like, though?
How would that look?
You get a free game to pick each month, no matter.
No. I mean Netflix style, like Xbox Game Pass. That Steam has nothing like that is surprising to me.
Well, that would be probably limited to a smaller roster.
Yeah, maybe like Indie Game Pass or AAA Action Game Pass or whatever.
The Steam Indie flat rate.
Yeah, something like that.
That would be cool.
Surprising that they haven't done this or even tried it out or something.
Yeah, that the smaller games who are often struggling with competing with the bigger games and the buy decisions of customers would probably profit of something like that enormously.
Yeah, for
People would be much more inclined to try those games out if they are included in this kind of thing. And if a lot of people subscribe, then of course it can be profitable for the developers too.
But also then they wouldn't buy them. They wouldn't buy the games, which I think is probably the problem. Which I'll never understand how people are, like developers are making money in the Xbox Game Pass.
Well, the main conditions, I don't know any exact contractuals, but for sure you wouldn't sign up on there if you don't get a sum that is at least making turnover. Or at least a break even, basically. So I think most of the developers who are part of the Game Pass get a sum of Microsoft that can make them go project break even. Otherwise, why would you sign on for that? Because you can't make any profit anywhere else if you have this.
Yeah, what the problem I'm seeing is with like games like Fall Guys, right? If they would have done for opted for a model like that, a very successful game, right? Explosive. They made so much money with sales. They wouldn't have been able to if they were in a Game Pass, because it's always a risk decision. Can you anticipate? Yeah. Can you like realistically anticipate how popular your game is going to be?
Well, that's the risk the publisher, in that case Microsoft, takes away from you, that you don't have to account for the risk of it being successfully viable or not.
Yeah, but then of course it also takes away the opportunity to be successfully, like insanely successful.
There's probably a little bit of both, that you get a fixed amount of sum, and then still on top of that, if it performs well, that you still get a cut, but not as a big of a cut you would get if you sell it normally in the store. I think something like that would probably be the most fair option if you go down that route.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, Fall Guys is definitely a very, very cool case study for everyone interested in. They didn't even have marketing, or did they? They Steam
had
streamer marketing.
Release week marketing, basically.
I guess they had streamer marketing, though. They probably paid a lot of streamers.
There were like 300,000 viewers on Steam on the day it launched. Everyone played it from the big streamers.
Really feels like that's the only viable marketing option at the moment for small, medium-sized games.
Right now, yeah. Influencers for sure.
Yeah, influencer marketing. I hate the word. Everyone does. Including the influencers.
Influencing content creators. How would you, or performers? How would you else label those people?
I don't know. I know that they love what they're doing and they have a lot of passionate fans and they're making them feel good, but I personally never watch a stream. I don't watch streams at all of any kind. I don't know. It's just not my thing. But I do appreciate that I know there's a lot of people out there who are sometimes, maybe they need someone to be there, or are lonely, or just want to chill, or just want to be entertained, you know? For some people, this is just modern television.
Yeah, I think for most users, it's modern television.
It's nice that people are there who are supplying this sort of entertainment that people are looking for.
Because it feels much more authentic than everything that is overproduced and scripted and stuff. It feels more real. You feel closer to this person.
Because you can interact with them.
That as well. But at one point, the streamers get so big that they are like in a matter of seconds, there are like 20 or 30 subs coming in or donations, and then the interaction with the streamer is of course not there anymore. So I don't really see a reason why a lot of people invest like absurd amounts of money to get noticed by the streamer who probably won't see it anyway. Why would you donate? Of course.
I think we shouldn't dive into the psychology here. I mean, that's some people just are like that. Let's leave it at that. You know?
Fair enough.
It's just we will never understand people who spend 5,000 euros if I guess, especially the people who can't afford it and who still spend it. I guess it's some sort of addiction, but it's not our place to judge. And I could never be a fan of a person. Never. I am not fan of any celebrities. I'm not fan of any YouTubers, not fan of any content designers. I could never give them my money because I'm such a fan of them. But what I can do is respect their work, you know? And for example, YouTube channels like, I don't know, Good Mythical Morning that like enrich my day. They make me feel good. They're positive outlook and they positively affect my day to day. These people, I definitely would donate something to them or buy their merch or whatever because I respect what their work they're doing and I want to support that.
Yeah.
You
Similarly to how the Patreon model should work. You are supporting people because of the stuff they do and not because you want to get their attention.
Yes.
Or, I don't know. Okay, we are already above and beyond with this episode. And I want to read one final headline as a closing statement or as a closing topic for this episode, which is from Polygon, which reads, it's 4 days ago or something, Red Dead Online is so broken right now you can't even shoot and horses don't work.
The state of gaming 2020. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, for making us part of your weekly routine. We have grown to 1,500 people now, which is amazing. You can look forward to a new guest in the future who's a world designer at Ubisoft. We won't reveal more yet, but you will see when the episode comes. And if you like
the other one,
if you would, but we've already teased our New Zealandish surprise, which will be coming soon as well, which we teased last episode or the episode before. And of course, if you want to support us and if you want to, as we just talked about as well, if you respect our work, if we positively affect your day to day, then feel free to join our Patreon. We have reassigned or restructured the Patreon. It's only a $3 tier now. There's nothing else. And it's just to support us. You can still get access to the Discord with that and, ask us questions, suggest us topics for this podcast. But other than that, we have scrapped all the other tiers. And it's just, support us or don't. We still love you.
And post all the outrageous Call of Duty Warzone stats and screenshots towards us so we can admire them.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess it's time for the socials, Sven, your specialty.
Yes, you can find it on Twitter at Idiots Industry or on Instagram at Industry Idiots, or just simply in your podcast player of choice, your podcast app of choice. Click on the episode and there should be a direct link to either platform, Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to go.
All right. Then, as always, bye.
Bye.